the security dialogue.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. You are welcome to yet another edition of the Security Dialogue on Muslim Television Ahmadiyya International. In our previous discussions, we have dealt with issues of security, trying to make you as a viewer understand what security is about. We've also discussed issues around peace and peace building. Today, on the Security Dialogue, we're going to have a look at impact of conflict on national security in Ghana and in the sub-region and also in the world over. As we have indicated, the Security Dialogue Program looks at issues from the local to the regional to the national and to the international perspective. And exactly what we are going to do today. But before then, we say that Ghana's current image of peace and stability is worthy of attention, ranked first in West Africa, second in Africa, and 38th in the world. Compared with its neighbors, Ghana seems to be going through a periodic state of stability or relative stability. Nevertheless, the periodic flaring of conflicts into serious violence has become a source of concern and worry to many, including you and I. The Security Dialogue today, as I indicated, takes a look at the impact of conflict on national security in Ghana, with a cursory look at the emergency of particular identities and inequalities and their role in promoting instability, conflict, and violence in Ghana. It tells you that identity and inequality is some of the drivers that probably our guests will be throwing more light on. So in the studio here with me is Dr. Festus Obin. Dr. Festus Obin is a senior researcher, a lecturer, a training facilitator, and a curriculum development expert focusing on conflict and security management, terrorism, violent extremism, peace building, and peace operations. He has a PhD in peace and conflict studies, MA in international affairs, and BA in political science with history. Currently, Dr. Obin is with the West African Network for Peace Building as the regional coordinator for research and peace building capacity. You are welcome to the studios of Muslim Television Ahmadiyya International, Doc.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
How is the holiday?
We've just started the day, so we are looking forward to how the day will.
And it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while. I must say that I, for one, have enjoyed your tutelage. And so sometimes we say that now is the servant or the student interviewing the teacher. So that is how it is. But I mean, you are a wonderful person. We had some of your students also passing through,
Okay.
and they speak so much of the in-depth knowledge that you share with them. And
Thank
so, like I indicated today, we want to understand the impact of conflicts on national security in Ghana and even extend it to Africa and then the world over. Doc, like I said, I mean, these days, each and everyone or people are becoming aware of so many agitations coming from different directions and all of that. And we keep saying conflict. But I mean, for the ordinary person who sits out there and want to understand what actually conflict is about and why it even exists or persists, we want to take that reaction from you as we go into the discussion.
Okay. So first of all, thank you very much for having me. I was here, I think, 2 years ago.
Wow.
So I'm happy.
Wow. So
to be
back
back
home.
Yes, I'm happy to be back. So thank you very much. I mean, conflict. When we talk about conflict is basically when people have incompatible goals, values, objectives, interests, and all that. Once people have incompatibility, in terms of their goals, in terms of their interests, then conflict is bound to happen.
Okay.
But we have different forms of conflict. I mean, we have conflict that happen within individuals, which we call the intrapersonal conflict. Then we have conflict that happens between people, which is the interconflict. And then we have, at the group level, we have intra-group conflict and intergroup conflict. And then also at the state level, we have the international conflicts and non-international conflicts.
Okay, so Doc, right. to the ordinary person, when you talk about especially intergroup and you're talking about intra-group, what are some of the examples you can share with us as a practitioner also, when you have been working on the field? What are some of the experiences that you share with that, or some examples?
I mean, when you talk about the intra-group conflicts, these are conflicts that happens within groups. So it can happen at the community level, okay, at the political party, okay, level, and even at the ethnic group level.
Okay.
So in Ghana, we have ethnic groups that are fighting within that particular group. And that is a form of intra-group conflict. Okay. So for example, we have major political parties in Ghana.
Okay.
So let's say if you have a conflict within the New Patriotic Party or the National Democratic Congress, that is an intra-group conflict. Or you have...
So can that equally happen, let's say, even at the family level or
yes,
at the community level?
Yes, okay. Yes. Because you have...
But how dangerous would this be? Or how?
Because it's mostly at the individual, okay, and also at the group level. Okay. Most of the time, the consequences is mostly limited to that particular group or individuals involved. Okay. It doesn't have a national dimension or a regional dimension. And that is why those are low-intensity conflicts. Wow. All right, they are different from the conflict that has, for example, ethnic dimension or religious dimension.
Okay.
Because here you are talking about a large group of people.
Okay.
You are talking about a whole region. Okay. Or at the national level, you are talking about a nation. Okay. So that the consequences of that is much more higher than conflict between individuals, okay, within a family, okay, or between two different families, okay, or even within associations and all that.
Okay.
So those are mostly limited, okay, in terms of their consequences. Okay. But those with regional and national dimension, they have consequences that sometimes even go beyond the country.
Okay. What are some of this?
So, for example, during the conflict in Liberia,
okay,
we had a lot of people, refugees,
okay,
for example, okay, moving from Liberia to Ghana, okay, where we had the Budumburam refugee camp. Okay. You see, that is a consequences of the conflict that has transcended the border, wow, of that particular country. Wow. All right, you can talk about even Cote d'Ivoire, okay, Burkina Faso.
Okay.
Recently, we've had people who have migrated from Burkina because of the communal violence and issues of violent extremism happening in that country into the northern part of the country.
Okay.
All right, that is a conflict that has taken a transnational dimension. You get it? Uh-huh. But there are some, like, let's say, in Konya-Alabanya conflict, okay, in the Volta region.
Okay.
This is a conflict within a particular district.
Okay.
All right, so if you look at the consequences, it has not gone beyond those within, okay, the vicinity.
Okay.
Even the whole Volta region, okay, it has not.
Okay.
So okay, it's a bit limited, okay, or restricted, okay, as compared to those with national dimension.
Okay, thank you very much for that explanation. I mean, it's wonderful. But The topic has two parts for us to discuss, because we are looking at how this impacts on the totality of the security that we enjoy.
Okay.
So to the ordinary person, I mean, sometimes we hear national security, and people are, I mean, going agog. I mean, they don't even know what it is about. So when you look at conflict in relation to national security, what actually is national security?
Okay. You are right. I mean, when we talk about national security, a lot of people tend to put every security challenges under national security. But national security, basically, deriving from the name, they are security threats or challenges that have a national scope.
Okay.
So, in theoretically, we define it as the protection of the state from internal and external threats.
Okay.
And most of the time, we define it in military terms to mean protecting the state from external aggression.
Okay.
All right. But in practical terms, when you talk about national security, you are talking about security challenges that can affect the country as a whole.
Okay.
The economy of the country, the people of the country, the institutions and the values of the country. Those are threats that have national scope. And so you classify them as national security.
Okay.
Mind you, we also have internal challenges.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, what are some of these?
So the internal challenges, for example, you talk about crime, armed robbery.
Okay.
Okay. You talk about vigilantism.
Okay.
You talk about poverty and all those threats.
Okay. So I'm sure we will definitely, and I'm going to ask, I mean, some of the drivers or the causes of this conflict and how, I mean, it affects us as a nation, or maybe when you look at the regional level. And on that score, I will want to understand it from other perspectives, say some of the things that are happening in other West African countries and or other African countries, including some of the international communities that we have. So I will want to ask what are some of the causes or the drivers of this conflict that we are talking about?
In terms of which?
I mean, in terms of security, in terms of what other people perceive as the fact that they need to be protected from, and like you mentioned, crime. But I mean, we have different types of crime and all of that. So the drivers, I mean, what will make someone move into that state where he feels that he has a conflict within either himself or with somebody, or maybe with even the national authority.
Okay. So I think we need to look at it from context.
Okay.
Every context differs in terms of the drivers of.
Okay. So for instance, when we look at issues of, say, vigilantism, which in itself, I don't know, but I'm sure as you are explaining to us, probably could even have some national implications.
Yeah.
I mean, what are some of the things that will drive, for instance, some of these issues? Okay.
So there are common factors, and then there are also specific factors. And that's why I mentioned the issue of context. So if you take vigilantism, for example, one of the major driver of vigilantism is socioeconomic issues. Because if you look at most of the people who are involved in those vigilantism activities, these are people who are looking for daily bread. And so the political parties use them to pursue their interests, but at the same time also helping those involved to also pursue their interests of getting financial rewards, or sometimes even getting employment opportunities from what they do. So you have socioeconomic issues. You have issues of unemployment. You have issues of political patronage. And this happens especially after elections, when people have been promised certain job opportunities, and after elections, they are more or less abandoned
Okay.
by their political leaders.
Okay.
You know, they go about chasing people all over the place.
Yes. Carrying ballot boxes.
Ballot boxes and all that.
Yeah.
So that is also one aspect.
Okay.
Then there are issues, we need to also look at it from the dimension of the state.
Okay.
You see, when you take Ghana, our population is over 30 million.
Yeah.
We are waiting for the statistical service to bring the current data.
Yeah.
But if you look at our population, we need a police service of over 50,000.
Okay.
But if you look at the police service now, they are not even up to 35,000.
Okay.
So there's a deficit.
Okay, so it means that we are not able to match up to what the UN even describes.
Yes,
okay.
1:500 police officers.
Okay, so currently,
what happens?
How does it stand?
Mm-hmm. 800 and something. I'm not too sure of the number, but the
Don't
last
you think
time
that they will
checked,
beat the policeman?
that's why the politicians also rely on those vigilante boys to provide security for them.
Okay.
Because there's a deficit.
Okay.
And you know, there's also a mistrust for the police and other state agencies. So the opposition parties, for example, prefer their own security arrangement than relying on the police.
Thank you very much, Doc. Now, you made mention of ethnicity, you know, which I know that it is also something that really need to be looked at. And maybe in context, when you even take ethnicity, you can, pair it with, say, within the religious angle. You can even, situate it with that.
Yeah.
How, looking at the Ghana's security architecture, taking into consideration what happens in the African, how does this really affect us when it comes to national security or security per se?
Okay. If you are doing the comparison between Ghana and other countries, I would say that we have done fairly well in terms of ethnic tolerance among the different ethnic groups that we have in the country. Elsewhere, there are a lot of ethnic conflict between ethnic groups. And I'll give you an example. In Mali, you have the Dogon people and the Fulani people, the Tuaregs, fighting all over the place. Sometimes over issues of natural resource, sometimes issues of identity and all that, which has also exacerbated some of the conflicts within Mali. Now, if you take Ghana, even in Nigeria, there are issues between the Fulanis and some groups.
And this, even though it has that ethnic dimension, there's also
a religious
and an identity problem that is factored.
Yes.
But this seems to play out in most of the conflicts that we see, because I'm sure even in Ghana, if you go to, say, there's this area that we have the farmer header issues. I forgot Agogo area. And it seems to me that the identity plays much more role in, flaring up this conflict and all of that. I want to understand, and I think that is very important for our viewers, that identity challenge and how we can deal with it.
Okay. Identity is very difficult, especially when it is fueling conflict. It's very difficult to deal with using confrontation or using any security-oriented processes, all right? Because identity is what defines people, and people will go at all lengths to protect their identity and that of their larger group. And that's why when there are issues between Christians and Muslims in the schools, you saw how the different groupings were all trying to protect the identity of. So in Ghana, apart from some of these few instances we've had in schools, and also we've not really, most of the identity issues in terms of ethnicity, the religious dimension has not played so much. Like you mentioned the farmer-herder conflict,
Yeah.
for example.
Yeah.
The identity has mostly been citizenship issues.
Okay.
That
Okay.
most of those Fulani people are non-Ghanaians.
Okay.
So it is not about being Akan or Hausa or being Dagomba, but most of the time it's rather about issues of nationality.
Okay.
That you are not a Ghanaian and therefore you are not entitled to this.
Okay.
That has been the major concern. But having said that, I mean, there are also small ethnic undertones.
Okay.
When it comes to some of these issues that we are looking at, and most of the time what we have dealt with is using dialogue,
Okay.
facilitated by the National Peace Council.
Yeah, I mean, we will come back to that measures that we need to put in place to ensure that we are able to move away from some of this conflict and then we live as good. But I want to reach out to my viewers and let you know that we are discussing on the security dialogue the impact of conflict on national security, which concerns you and I. And so we pay much more attention to the fact that we need to live in a very peaceful environment for national development, I mean community development and all of that to go on. Here in the studio is Dr. Festus Obin, who is the regional coordinator in charge of research and capacity building at the West African Network for Peace Building. And I mean, they have done a lot of fantastic work. This program, this very session is actually a section that cannot just end in 30 minutes. And so we're going to have it and give you a very concluding and intriguing part, which will be the second follow-up of this program. And so when you are done with this one, please look out for the concluding part with my guest, who is a wonderful person. So, Doug, for instance, you made mention of socio-economic, and I will want to add the issues of political development, sort of. And I want to ask that what is the impact of this conflict on all of this, as far as peace building is concerned? And I mean, peace building is a global agenda, right?
Yeah.
Which the UN and I mean the AU and other regional bodies are, I mean, pursuing, working towards that. So, yeah. What will be the impact of conflict on all of this?
Okay, you know that when there's conflict, development cannot take place. That's why there's this cliche that development and conflict go together. Okay. Without development, with conflict, you can't have development. Okay. And vice versa. Okay. All right. So one of the major impacts of conflict is that it affects investment in the area of the conflict. Okay. And so development also suffer, and the people within those areas also suffer. Okay. In terms of the socioeconomic opportunities that will be created by the government or even foreign investors in those areas. So in terms of the socioeconomic issues, those are some of the impact. Infrastructure is also affected in those areas. Sometimes you have people displaced.
Okay, Doug, you know, I will want to, like I indicated, I mean, this is going to be a two-part section with you. But before we do that, I want to take a breather. And when we come back, or we take his final words, and when we come back, we move into the concluding part of this discussion for us to have a very good idea about the topic that we are discussing today. If I want to take your final words on this very first section, what will you say to looking at Ghana? Would you say that we are a peaceful country and we are enjoying peace?
Okay. Ghana is relatively peaceful as compared to the other countries because the measure of peace I mean, some of the things that we look at when we are measuring peace, like the structural problems, for example. We have some in Ghana. So you can't say Ghana is absolutely peaceful. But Ghana is relatively peaceful. And that is what the Global Peace Index also confirmed.
Okay. Thank you very much. From Dr. Festus Kofi Obin, he says that Ghana is currently enjoying or we are having what we call relative peace or negative peace, I guess. This is where we draw the curtains down on the first part of this episode. When we come back same time next week, we're bringing you the concluding part, and I want you to be with us. This has been the Security Dialogue on Muslim Television and Media International, where I had Dr. Festus Obin with me, discussing issues of conflict and how we can all contribute to making our society very peaceful. Don't stay and cause problem with people. You need to live peacefully with people. And I pick yet another very instructive piece from the Holy Quran. And I want to share with you. And this is coming from Holy Quran chapter 8, verse 59. Holy Quran chapter 8, verse 59. And it says, "And if thou fearest treachery from a people, throw back to them their covenant with equity. Surely Allah loves not the treacherous." It means that when you are there and you are confronted by somebody with a fight, with trouble, you need to give their trouble back to them by showing them love. You don't need to fight them back, but you need to have a very non-violent approach to ensuring that those people, you live peace with them. Until we come your way same time next week, this has been the Security Dialogue, and I've been your host, Sadiq Educhum. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.